Well, there's a wonderful practitioner of architecture named Christopher Alexander. He developed a system that he called the pattern language. And one of his patterns is called Wings of Light. It's wonderful to be able to incorporate if you can. And the idea of that is no wing is necessarily very much wider than a given room, so that you have outside exposure on as many faces of the room as possible. That was one of the principles of this sort of axial organization that we have for the house. There's a richness in having light, in having the sense of the sun moving through the day and the way everything transforms based on the direction and the light color, the quality of light of the sun as it moves around the day. So you're living in a sundial, basically. My name is Pi Smith. I am one of the principals at Smith & Van Sant Architects. We were part of the design team that created not just the house, but the landscape and environment.
Where to start? We have a whole wing that works at a half-level offset from the main house, and that introduces a sort of degree of removal. Having a wing that's at a half-light relationship to all the others also permits spaces in what is a large house to feel relatively close to each other. One only has to go half a flight to get to the next destination or the next space. At each half level, there's some important space, and they all pinwheel off of that central corridor and the stair. There's a sense that spaces are woven together and the house has a good flow and adjacency. My name is Ira Clark. I was the lead designer on this project. I work with Smith & Van Sant Architects. I was project manager through the course of construction.
We landed with a pretty classic interpretation of a shingle-style house.
We're interested in lightening up the interior, working within the shingle-style vernacular, yet having a more contemporary relationship to the outdoor environment, to daylighting, sense of space. So having rooms that opened up to the exterior rather than were hermetically focused or inwardly focused.
As we all came to understand the opportunities and character of our site, we realized that the shingle style would give us a lot of flexibility to address meeting the land and creating the kinds of rooms and flowing spaces and forms of shingle style, and then also just the sensibility of the muted palette, the softness of shingles, and the durability of the components and details.
Right from the outset, the owner was interested in ensuring that this was a house that would really stand the test of time. He'd refer to it as his 100-year house. There are a lot of lessons to be picked up here and there in certain projects, and I think we successfully wove them together in a way that's integrated and consistent and whole. We kind of studied the essence of these certain details, thought about what things combined together would support consistent, integrated design, and worked up I think, pleasing vocabulary of details, materials, and colors.
There are so many lovely details in this house, ranging from the light fixtures to the cabinet knobs, to the paneling details, to considerations about materials.
We're very interested in introducing wood paneling throughout the house. It lends each space a certain degree of texture, light falls across it, kind of enlivens each of the wall planes, and the play of light across those surfaces becomes much more interesting. Early on, I wound up actually visiting some local train stations, looking at examples of deep roof brackets, how the curvature of the wood elements was handled, what the chamfering was like at the edge of the diagonals.
Our client was inspired by a trip to England, where he noticed these patterned encaustic tile floors.
The kind of kit of parts gave us the chance to create this interesting tapestry flowing from one space to another through the entry mudroom kitchen sequence, sort of dialing up and dialing down the level of formality in each of those spaces.
That is English tile by Original Style. And I have to say the breezeway is another one of my favorite moments in the house. It's connecting the freestanding garage, which also has a wonderful exercise space. And it gives you these views through into the wooded landscape. It's sort of a magical way into the building.
Elements of the house that I feel are most successful, I'm really pleased with each of the porches. They're very comfortably proportioned transitional zones between these primary living spaces and the active terrace landscape around them. The screen porch, I would say, is one of my favorite kind of surprise features. Out at the end of the family room, there's a single door and very little indication of what's beyond, but when one steps outside, suddenly you're in this timber-framed enclosure. The ground plunges away and you're up in the trees with the leaves blowing and the branches surrounding you, and it really has a treehouse type of feeling.
That dining room is absolutely a container for family life. It has the curved front, which means that you really feel surrounded by light and landscape. It's a very intimate scale, gets you right to the porch, and there are French doors into the inglenook, which is another really lovely little spot in this house. It has a masonry heater and this beautiful stone wall, and it has these borrowed windows that go through into the dining room. So from either of these spaces, you're aware of the other space. It's a formal dining room, but it's also open to the kitchen. And that's actually kind of hard to do. We didn't want lots of upper cabinets. We wanted windows and lovely light fixtures. So there's actually a buffet that screens the counter. So when you sit at the table, you cannot see any clutter, but when you stand up, then you're looking over the whole kitchen. They're very much continuous spaces.
We're able to help give this project a sense of continuity inside and out by bringing some of the stone features in a refined way to the interior. We have your carefully detailed, proportioned living room fireplace, and that stone reappears on the opposite side in the inglenook, so one can sense the movement of the masonry up through the house.
And we needed to get through that to get to the master suite. So we split the chimneys and created an arch between them and brought the stonework from this level up into the master suite.
That crops up again in the landscape in the pavilion, for instance, out by the fire pit. Another outdoor structure that grows out of the land on a significant stone base.
What we were trying to achieve for the homeowners was to create a really comfortable family home. We wanted it to function really well for them, to support the different aspects of their life, ranging from smaller scale family moments to larger scale entertaining. We wanted to give them surprise and whimsies. It would be such a great house for grandchildren. They're just these moments of discovery, like secret windows into skylight shafts or attics with great little view places. There are just lots of sweet little moments that I think made this house a fun adventure for children to grow up in, and hopefully for future generations.